I'm Mike Govoni, and for the last 15 years, I've been in recovery from addiction and on the deepest quest to find healing, to experience my own unique wholeness beyond the story of what happened to me. By taking an integrative, holistic approach to experience transformation, I bring you the Healing Beyond Recovery podcast, a show dedicated to people in recovery who are looking for deeper healing and transformation. Our guest today is an amazing woman and dear friend who is helping people transform and heal through yoga and traditional spiritual teachings. We both met each other in a personal development group as we were both healing our trauma to step into our life's work. I'm happy to say we're both doing our work because part of it is bringing you this episode today. So let me tell you a little bit about this magical being and what she's all about. Leila has been a yoga teacher and spiritual guide for almost 10 years. She is a trauma-informed lifestyle coach and has been deeply inspired by the Vedic Yoga philosophy during her pilgrimages and training in India. Her personal style of teaching is influenced by the work of Caroline Myss and leans on the energetic anatomy of the human spirit. Leila believes in the brilliance in that which we already are and is committed to guiding all that are ready back to their source in a light-hearted and joyous way. Leila holds yoga and spiritual retreats both in and out of the U.S. and spends much of her time between Bermuda and Florida. So that's a little bit about this divine being, and let's dive right in. Leila, welcome to the show. First, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show. And actually, Leila, you're my first female guest, so that's...
Oh, nice. Happy to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking earlier, like, wow, yeah, I only have 10. Actually, this will be the 12th or 13th episode, depending upon when it launches. And I was like, wow, I haven't had a woman yet. And, what an honor and a treat it is to have you, and actually someone who's working specifically with women these days, I see, to help healing. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It was a nice little niche to get into, I think, just because I am a woman this lifetime. I have so much to, chat about, just like you with men. I suppose it is where I can jam for hours and not get caught up on anything. Just keep going and going. But I also super enjoy collaborating with other with men that are doing, the opposite and equal forceful work in the world. So I see you as one of those people that's paving the way for the new world. So I'm very happy to collaborate and stand in the opposite corner and guide people home. You know what I mean?
For sure, right? I share with people, this is just a journey back home to you, I say. So yeah, it's really admirable, the work you're doing. And actually we met doing our own personal work. And where did we meet? Atlanta, right? We're at
we met at the first time I think we were in Orlando when we did the smaller event, and then we signed up for the year-long program, just like briefly. I was just thinking about that the other day on how I would love to deep dive like that again. That was a very potent week of realization in many ways.
Yeah, that was so exciting. I remember just like the feeling I got back then when I was really, in the group with all you guys and showing up to Prosper X. This is the work we did with Mast and Kip. And it was really an exciting time. And I just want to share with the listeners, Leila and I were both doing our deeper trauma work so we could step into our life's work, which is coming to fruition, I know, for myself and for you. And that's how we met. And I remember the little bench we were on outside the mall, and I know I shared my deep trauma story with you, and you shared yours with me, and that was a beautiful moment. And I think from then on, we've kind of had this little special friendship, although we don't talk often or hang out often in person. But we both, it's like when you show your authentic self and you can just be who you are, it's just, magical things happen in a relationship.
Yeah, I think it goes to show how superficial a lot of the world's communities really are nowadays, because when people are able to be authentic and vulnerable like that and have a safe enough space to do so, then relationships that are lasting, like regardless of whether you're in the same place or regardless of what's happening in your life, like connections are built on such a deep level that really can withstand anything. Space time doesn't really matter, and they're like monumental to really connect with somebody like that. And I think all of us in that group were just like blown away by how much we all had in common, but how little we actually had in common. Like it was just such an
Mm.
interesting like group of people. I think there was maybe like 30 of us there, 40 maybe, in this deep dive that we did in Atlanta, and from every different walk of life, every different gender, race. Like you couldn't have even like picked us, like the group that was there, but I felt so deeply connected to a few of those people, but then like the whole group was just an insane connection because everybody was just really going there and kind of releasing the things that hold them back from connecting that authentically, which usually is trauma or interesting coping mechanisms or shutdown, or like avoidance patterns that we have. We really don't want to bring our whole heart forward into relationships because we've been burned in the past or whatever, but we really were in a place of complete safety where we could connect like that. And it was healing, super healing.
Yeah, it was definitely healing. It was actually the first time in my life, and I've done this personal development stuff before, but it was the first time I actually felt safe enough in a group to move beyond some of the old wounding I had with my dad being a religious figure, and one person being up on the stage teaching everyone, that transference I had
Mhm.
from the past, and I really got to participate and engage in the group like I never had before. And I think that is a give a shout out to Maston and the work he does. It was a very transformational weekend, and the group was amazing. And that that leads us. I know you're doing some trauma informed work and lifestyle coaching with women, and I know we also teach what we need to heal. So maybe we can open up and just sharing as much as you want to share in regards to you know your journey a little bit. And I don't even know really how to say this anymore because I'm interviewing guests that are like, yeah, I'm in recovery, but I don't really say recovery. They do different paths to not using chemicals. So I know that's been part of your journey. So maybe we'll just dive into, you know, some of the things you've had to heal and to be who you are today. Whatever you want to share.
Cool. Yeah, I don't any words around releasing pretty poor coping mechanisms is totally fine with me. It doesn't really matter. I don't identify with any particular side. It's all kind of the same scope. Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey that I think any journey when we let go and realize we just want to heal, it kind of just takes us however life is going to take us through different routes that are appropriate at certain times, and then to the next teacher and to the next book and to the next training and to the next teacher and then to the next therapist. So it's just been kind of a wild ride once I realized, well, I have everything seemingly that I would need in my life, but I'm still not happy. I was a competitive gymnast growing up, and that led to some interesting eating patterns. I was homeschooled until I went to college, which led to some interesting family relationships, and some of them good, some of them bad. Meaning, I've been a pretty free spirit from the day I came out, and kind of blazing my own trail without a lot of authority figures opposing their desire of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a part of that that's been kind of fiery and independent from the beginning.
Hold on, can I just
But
say, are you a
yeah,
Scorpio?
no, I'm a Leo.
Oh, okay. The,
Yeah, Leo with lots of Virgo and Capricorn. Actually, God gave me Leo so that I wasn't like the most stubborn, annoying person to be around. Like a little bit of humor.
cool. Well, I love the
Yeah,
fact that you don't take any shit from anyone and that you're blazing your own trail. So that's
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
love that.
there's moments where I'm sure that that's super annoying to be around, but for the most part, I've been able to turn that into good use. Yeah, so I had an interesting upbringing, being homeschooled, and then the competitive gymnastics world, which just led to some, interesting body image things and relationship with food. And I was also the middle child, which led to some interesting family dynamics with my sisters and my parents, and definitely took on a lot of responsibility before I probably needed to. So once I got to be, I think I was I went through some personal traumas around 19 years old that got me into a wedge of being depressed, but not having or not knowing or having an outlet to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I resorted to, I was a CrossFit coach, like really into CrossFit after gymnastics. I was really controlled with my eating. I was drinking like crazy, doing drugs like crazy. I was dating whoever I could, really just grasping for anything to help me feel like I was okay, to help me feel
Mm-hmm.
like I was happy, to help me feel like I I wasn't a shell of a human, which is what I did actually feel like, and I didn't know how to admit that or talk to anybody about that. So I spent like 4 years in a pretty deep, now I recognize, like depressed state. But I am a pretty I was pretty able to function socially, so it didn't seem like I was, which really was a weird reality to like be really crumbling on the inside, but seemingly looking totally fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, right.
Can I bring it
Yeah,
back to a
totally.
moment with the exercising, because something's hitting home for me with CrossFit, and I've seen this pattern in a lot of other people, not so much in women, but I think it's great that your transparency with it. And I was like an
Oh yeah.
overexerciser. I was in the gym like twice a day. I call it building up my armor so no one could really
Mhm.
like get to
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I-
totally.
did you have that same thing with the image and having to like be seen a certain way through the body image?
Oh yeah, I think I just had this view, just from being young. You're in gymnastics, you're dancing around in a leotard, being judged on how perfect your
Hmm.
movements are by like adult judges. And if you
Hmm.
bend your leg wrong or you pick your wedgie, you get an imperfect score. And so that just like totally ingrains like the sense of perfectionism and like um, real intensity around like physical appearance and like a mindset of like, oh my God, I have to be perfect. Everything I have to do is perfect. Like otherwise I'm completely failing. And then that
Hmm.
translated, fortunately, around that time, I also I had like good friends in my life that were, I went on a yoga retreat to Costa Rica when I think I was like 17, the first one I went on, which made me realize, oh, there's something more about life because we were in this little bamboo structure on top of this mountain. And I realized, like, what the hell do humans do when they're not like doing all these other things I thought you were supposed to do? There's like no electricity, compostable toilets, and we're just sleeping like in the middle of the jungle. And I had my first set of like epiphanies around existence and just like my first crisis at like 17, which was a
Mm.
really young age to go through that. But it did make me realize, like, okay, there's something else here, and there is a possibility to be happier and less like attached to everything that I think is so important. So I did have this little like shiny object in the corner, like the path of yoga, kind of sitting there. But it definitely, I was still young, so I continued on that path, went through my series of traumas. Was doing yoga during that entire time, and that was my saving grace through those younger years because there was a lot of other things that were just totally falling apart. And then I dove into CrossFit very hard. And it was also like an excuse to continue to treat my body poorly because I was definitely doing that to try to, like you said, build armor up. I could feel that. I enjoyed feeling strong and independent. And there was something about
Mm.
that that was really, it was like one of the only ways I was feeling empowered, even though it wasn't the healthiest. And it also kept me like I really didn't eat well. I never really ate poor because my parents had a catering business, so they were pretty. They gave us good food from the get go. But I would like eat whatever I wanted and drink whatever I wanted. But I could like make an excuse about it because I was going to go to CrossFit like every day the next week, so I didn't really
Mm.
have to keep the things I really cared about in line. It was like I'll just like brutalize my body and eat this pizza or drink this beer. And it was just a really poor relationship with my physical form. It definitely was a yeah, not so good for my myself at the time. But I can't remember where I was going with that. But you want to add anything?
Yeah, yeah, and it's quite often like I can totally identify with just saying, "Hey, I'll eat all this shit and drink all this shit and make up
Mhm,
for it later by just working out extra hard or whatever
mhm,
it may be." But I love the fact that you really understood that you were you know building this armor, like you said, as you identified with me, and I think we do this so we don't let those vulnerable parts of us be seen, and
mhm.
to feel strong. Like I remember when I was like 100, and now I'm short. I'm like 5'6", and I was like almost 200 pounds, and I felt so strong, but inside I was like, I like if you said the wrong thing to me, I would like crumble inside. I was so fragile,
Mm-hmm.
and just yeah. So I love all the different things we do to really like, to protect ourselves. And I love the fact that you found yoga, and it sounds like you were exploring a little bit with the yoga, but went back to the CrossFit. Did you find the yoga like softening and able to step into your feminine a little more? Or what was yoga like for you? Because I know a lot of people, and women in particularly, go to yoga because it's kind of it's a way to release, it's a way to soften, it's a way to open and express. What was it like for you?
Yeah, I think I started going to it honestly to heal a shoulder injury first because I didn't really know anything about the spiritual aspect of yoga or anything like that, which oftentimes is actually left out from a lot of our classes here in the West anyway. But now I understand that yoga is a very deep spiritual practice, not just movements to stretch the body out, but that is one great aspect of it. But I
Wait,
came
so
into it from
there's more to it than just like down dog?
there's more to it, baby. Ready for teachers to just share all of it. But I
Yeah,
mean,
tell us
whatever reason
more.
whatever reason you start yoga is a good reason because eventually you'll start to get more curious about. And I remember like the first time I was young when I started. I think I was like 15 when I first started doing it. I went to this like old lady class with my mom, and I got talked into, at the end you like lay down, do shavasana or nap time, and I remember she just talked us into now I realize like a great meditative state. And I was like, I felt like I was floating. I was like, what
Mm.
is this? And I remember being like,
Hmm.
wow, I want to feel that again. But I still didn't really realize what's happening. I just was curious about it always. And I never stopped doing yoga, even through like my depressive states and my CrossFit days. I didn't do as much of it during CrossFit. I did it mainly so that my body wasn't like completely broken through how hard I was working out. But, um, and then after so yoga was always a pillar, and I'll get into like the spiritual part of it. But
Mm.
I think since my first like deep dive into yoga too was that retreat in Costa Rica, I realized how much healing can happen when you're in, again, kind of wrapping back to our master and kip thing, when you're in a safe place with a group of people who are all intending to heal together. That's what that week was, even though I was so young. And now I can look back and be like, wow, what a gift that was to be in a place like that, to recognize that there is a way to be happier and more free. Even though I didn't like totally go home and run with everything that it said, it definitely shifted things and made me always curious about how to be more happy and more free. Like
Hmm.
I knew that I felt it then, and I just was curious about somehow, continuing to find it. And even though I came back and went through some interesting years of searching for that same freedom, just in very poor ways, because I really don't think that anyone I think that everyone's looking for the same thing. So even when I was very depressed, I was looking for freedom and happiness and connection, but I was looking for that through one night stands or a martini,
Hmm.
or like different horrible patterns, or get likes on my Instagram. Like I just wanted to be approved of. I wanted to belong somewhere. I wanted to be part of a group. And there's a way that we can do that from a very integral, and healed whole place, but there's also a way that we can do that in a very low functioning way. And so I do think that all along I was searching to feel free and happy and whole, and just from a lower perspective I was doing it in some interesting ways. So I do think that with drugs, alcohol, food addiction, social media addiction, attention addiction, all the things we can be addicted to as people, I think we're all just looking to feel loved and included, and like we have a purpose. We're looking to feel free and happy and liberated. I mean, that's what the soul deeply desires. Um, and we can do that in various ways, from a very low functioning way to a very high functioning way. And I think we go in and out and kind of move up that ladder as we make choices and evolve through our life. So, um, all that said, I feel like you would probably resonate with that.
Yeah, yeah, I did them all,
Yeah, yeah,
That's
totally.
yeah, totally. So leading back to, we teach what we needed to heal, and I
Mhm.
totally identify between the gym, the martinis. Actually, one of the last nights I drank, I was in Plymouth, and I was drinking martinis, and I told the
Mhm.
bartender, I go, "Can you put some more booze in this?" And she goes, "What are you talking about? It's all booze." And I, and I was drinking them with a straw, like just
Mm.
slurping
Yeah.
them up. And so yeah, the one night stands, the money, the prestige,
Mhm.
all that, and eventually, as we know, it comes to a halt. And I'm just curious, what was that time in your life like when it started to, like, all that stuff didn't work anymore, and then you had to change things?
There's a series of like moments, but the first
Mm-hmm.
one was I had moved down to the Florida Keys. I was coaching CrossFit full time, and I was also teaching yoga. And I remember being in a yoga class, and I was so it, I remember being fed up with my own like self hatred. Like so much. I remember just laying on the mat, the yoga mat in the yoga studio on my back with like my knees into my chest and just like rocking side to side and just crying because I
Mm.
was so like, we all live with a voice inside of our head or multiple voices inside of our head. That's totally normal. But the mood of the voice inside our head really dictates the quality of our life, in my opinion. And at that point, and up until that point, I had really been living with a very self critical, like drill sergeant of a voice inside my head. And I remember just thinking, I have to change something. Like I can't go on like this. I haven't been, I think I'm not naturally a depressed person. So my thoughts never went to an extremely dark place, but it was just very intense and angry all the time, like just very
Mm.
self-critical. And I just remember thinking like, I'm fed up. Like, I don't know if I can actually continue on like this. I just have to have help. And
Mm.
when I walked out of that class, one of my good friends, Danielle, she kind of knew what I was going through, and she just posed this question, like, what if you started asking yourself, like, every moment of your life, if you just like before you chose anything, what if you just asked, like, what would someone who loved themselves do? And I just like broke down in tears again because I realized I really was functioning the opposite of that. Like every choice I made was kind of it was a self-sabotage move, or I really wasn't coming from a place of deep honor, love, and respect, um, because I had really not enjoyed the decisions I had made up until that point. I had a lot of self-judgment, I had a lot of regret, I had a lot of just like embodied trauma that I hadn't moved through.
Mm.
So that kind of breakdown led me to realizing that I really needed some professional help, and I went actually flew out to Colorado, which I have some dear family that lives out there. One of who is a therapist who, um, she had done her like supervision hours with a great therapist that's out there. And I said, okay, I'm coming out and I'm just going to stay as long as I can and do as many therapy sessions as I can. And they welcomed me into their home, and they're lovely people in my life. And I stayed out for about a month, and I did a series of EMDR and brain
Mm-hmm.
spotting, which is rapid eye movements, trauma therapy. Both of them are very powerful, with a therapist that was amazing, super well trained. He's been, I think he's been a therapist for 40 years or something like that. So very safe, and because I do think it matters that you have a good connection with the person that you work with.
Mm.
And that was like the first realization, like big epiphany or like awakening, where I realized how powerful the mind is and how powerful having guidance to rewrite the pathways in the mind can be. Because with his guidance and my ability, my willingness to go back to the traumas, speak them, feel them, move them through me, and stay with it. I really felt a sense of freedom, mental freedom and physical freedom that I hadn't felt in years, probably since like my childhood. And I journaled a lot, and I cried a lot, and I meditated a lot, and I journaled more, and just continued to
Mm.
clear everything out. And that was huge for me because I really didn't. I remember after that, I was able to kind of. I remember feeling like I had been drowning. Like I remember
Mm.
thinking, "Wow, all of a sudden I can breathe for the first time in years," and I
Wow.
almost felt like I can't believe I didn't like ask for this help before. And it was instantly what I thought. I was like, "Oh my god, if I had known that I just like needed some help, I would have totally asked for that," because it was so liberating to work with someone who can really help you get through those blocks, because I just kept hitting my own blocks over and over and over again until I was tired of it. And so that was like my first, like, wow, things, you can actually change your mind. You can actually rewrite. You can't rewrite your traumas. Your story is your story, but we can rewrite how we feel and the storyline we continue to tell about that trauma.
Mm.
And that's what changes our life. It's like, usually we experience a trauma, and because it was so painful, we can't even revisit it to feel what we needed to feel to complete the circuit with our nervous
Mm-hmm.
system, to feel what we wouldn't let ourselves feel in that moment, so that then we can move the emotion through us and start to tell a different story and secrete the lessons from that trauma. Because now pretty much all of my work has come from what I've realized through those traumatic events in my younger life. I realized, oh my God, these hold us back so much. And now they've, like, pretty much built my entire career in awakening. So I don't regret them at all. I'm so grateful for them. But it definitely takes guidance and awareness and safety to go back
Yeah.
into those moments to reorganize them in the way that actually serves our potential
Yeah.
in that life.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Leila. And I just want to say, and really recognize your courage to just go to Colorado and really do your work. And as you said, and I just want to, put a plug in to the listeners is, there's so many people that are suffering from unprocessed, unhealed trauma that are even in recovery for a long time, or just not in recovery, but they don't know that trauma is at the root of their issues, of their pain, of what's going on. And some of them that do, like you said, are too afraid to revisit them. But it's actually, trauma healing is complex, and it's like you said, it's about completing cycles, and it's really about, like you said, it's about releasing the pent up energy that gets stuck from the inability of your nervous system to process that fear or fright at the time of the trauma. So, as maybe Gabor or Marte says, it's not actually the event; it's what happens to you inside due to the event. And I think it's just amazing that you took the time, resources, and energy to really do that. That's courageous. And then what's so beautiful is now you're bringing this shit to the world to help others heal. So what does it look like for you now? I know you're doing, I was looking through your Instagram earlier and doing women's work, women's circles. And maybe we can, I'm not a woman, obviously, but maybe we can speak to the women who are maybe feeling like they still are carrying that burden and that unworthiness and that shame. Maybe they're in recovery, maybe they're not. Just, where do they begin? What can they begin to do to help, experience that freedom that you got from that healing in Colorado?
Yeah, I think just like really getting clear on how it is that you feel now. I think we move in such a fast-paced world that oftentimes we don't even know that we're uncomfortable, or we don't, it's like a tickle in the back of the throat, but like we're moving we're just going too fast to really even notice it, because we're doing everything we thought we were supposed to be doing. We're keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, I think that 2020 has definitely made people slow down in general, which is why it was so uncomfortable to slow down, because then a lot of us noticed the things that we were unhappy about, or the tight spots within us that we've been running from.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like we slow down and like everything we've been carrying just like flies up
Yeah,
to the front of the car, and we're like, oh my God, I don't even want to look at all this.
exactly. Yeah. When you slow
Yeah,
down, your shit comes up.
yeah, exactly. Um, and I do think that it's okay. My dog's growling. Thank you. I do think the first thing is just checking in with where you actually are. Like, how do you actually feel on a regular basis? And then how do you want to feel on a regular basis?
And now for a quick commercial break. Hey guys, maybe you're feeling stuck in your current path to recovery and know you have some work to do, but don't know where to turn. I was there too. Even after being in recovery for almost a decade, I was still riddled with fear, struggled desperately in relationship, found myself continuously trying to escape through external means, and at the end, my body was sick. We didn't get sober to continue to carry around the baggage of our past. We're here to thrive and live the best versions of ourselves. So you don't have to suffer like I did. I want to let you know about my passion and purpose in the form of service, and that's my work as a trauma-informed integrative recovery coach. I offer my services in the form of a one-on-one coaching program called Healing Beyond Recovery, where I take an integrative, holistic approach to help you get to the root cause of what's keeping you stuck so you can thrive in your life in recovery. You can learn more about me and my services on my webpage at www.mikegovoni.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. Once you're on the page, click Apply Now to schedule a complimentary discovery call with me today. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
I think that we live in a very persuaded environment too. We open our phones immediately and we're just looking at everybody else's opinions about things, and how much time do we really take on a daily basis to check in with who we are and how we feel and what our reality is, moment by moment, day by day, chapter of life by chapter of life, and really get clear on what is it that's missing. How do we want to feel? When I work with women, and I do it in a very different variations, whether I do some online longer courses or I do personal mentorships or retreats and trainings and things. But when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, we don't even set goals when we're working together. We set goals of, or at least achievable, I want to have $1 million. We set well, how do you want to feel? Because, we could get $1 million, but if we don't specify that we want to feel empowered, you're going to still feel the same way you feel now when you get that $1 million. So if we can tune into the feeling of what it is that we're really searching for, we can start to identify our motive behind a lot of our behaviors. Because the same, our motives, getting clear on our motives behind why we are reaching for the drink, or why I am reaching for my phone again when I really should be sitting still, or why I am going to the gym, or why I am, pouring into my business. What are our motives behind it? Caroline Myss, who's my mentor and teacher, she says that at the end of our life, the angels don't care what we chose, they care why we chose it. And I think that that's extremely powerful, because we really do live in a world that's very externally validated and motivated. And it's a lot of people pleasing, perfectionism. We want our life to look a certain way. It's this external, we're externally sourcing our worth and our value, when that's not something that the external world could ever source to us. We actually, if we have the courage, we can recognize that we are more than just, a body and a mind, that there's something very spiritual and sacred that lies within us, which kind of wraps back to the real practice of yoga, or, the word yoga means to unite, which is to unite all aspects of who we are with the deepest part of who we are, which is our soul. And I believe that's our spirit. That's the soul that moves through all things, that, blooms a flower, that rises the sun over the horizon, that beats my heart, that's beating your heart. There's magic. There's an energy, a sacred energy that pulsates through all things in the natural world. And starting to honor that as a intelligent, reverent force in our life, within us, within others, within nature, within all things, starts to cultivate a sense of self-awareness and self-worth that's really beautiful. And we can start to carry that into things. But unfortunately, we're moving too fast, and we're seeking outside of us so frequently and so hard that we usually miss that sacredness. We're oh, I'll be happy when I have that drink. I'll be happy when I make that money. I'll be happy when I get that husband. I'll be happy when I lose that weight, or, I win that thing. But the reality is, if we can't cultivate happiness now, it literally will not matter what we get, because we won't be happy then either, until we course correct what's happening with us internally every moment, to situate ourselves in a place that is content, that does feel free, that needs very little from the outside world. In order to be that way, I really think, and I know that it takes actually very little. the deepest part of who we are happy, but we aren't in connection with that deep part on a regular basis. So it takes a lot to make the ego happy. I mean, there's lots of shit that my ego is like, I need that and this and that and this, like, and then no one can ever live up to that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
true, my preferences are ridiculous as a personality, as an ego, but from a soul perspective, I just need so little. I need to feel safe. I want to feel loved, and I want to feel free, and like that
Yeah.
can come from such tiny little changes in our life. All of that to be said, slowing down and noticing who and how we are in this moment, who and how we'd like to be, and then having assistance to move closer and closer to yourself is really useful, whether that's a teacher or coach. I think therapy is wonderful. Someone that you trust that really has done the work, someone that's, reputable and trained and has, the tools that are necessary for your stage of healing. I think someone that you're drawn to, and when they speak, you just know it's truth. You don't have to convince yourself. Someone who's been in it for a long time is also really useful. Finding mentorship, finding other women that are doing the work that don't want to, and men, I'm speaking to everyone here, that aren't just into talking about superficial things, that want to have heart-to-heart conversations and that want to feel happy and free, and find those people so that you don't feel like such a weirdo. Because we do live in a world that's like, don't you want to just get martinis and look on, Tinder and swipe? And it's like, or not really. I want to talk about how to be happy, like for real happy, like for real happy. And how do you do that? And there are people out there, there's lots of us who want to connect in that deep way. And so it's finding them, asking for help, putting our ego, because our ego also doesn't want to help. That's another thing. It's not as easy to receive. We're like, I can do it on my own. We live in a very independent or, negatively codependent world instead of interdependence, where it's like, I am self-sourced, and also, I can self-regulate, and then I can co-regulate and receive your help and assistance, and then I can help you, and you can help me, and I can help you. And it's healing to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And like you said, at the end of the day, when you do it, like after your experience in Colorado, you were like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? And it's like, we can't heal in isolation, but we heal in relationship, not necessarily intimate relationship, but a therapeutic relationship, and one of trust, and one of understanding, and one of compassion. So yeah, it's I know we're both seekers. Like, you're a seeker, I'm a seeker, and if you go back to my episode with Kevin Griffin, who's a Dharma teacher, meditation teacher, wrote the book Buddhism and the 12 Steps. He talks about that most Elkies are seekers. They've just been seeking in the wrong way, and or addict, or a person in recovery, whatever you want to call yourself. So I love the fact that you go to any lengths, and that you provide that container for a woman. And yes, it is important to learn and grow from someone that actually has had the transformation and lives that transformation within themselves. Yeah. And like you said, it will resonate with you. You'll feel it. You'll feel it.
Totally. And I think, I love that you said seeking, because I do think that, that session or that month or so in Colorado was just like the tip of the iceberg, because then I got curious of like, wow, if I can change that much and that little bit of time with that, that much heart and effort, then I can't even imagine the kind of transformation I can go through. And then I just stayed curious. After that, I began teaching retreats. I continued to go to retreats. I continued to practice yoga on a regular basis. I went through another series of interesting traumas with some work relationships. And then that was the year where I found Caroline Myss and really dove into her work. I went to her workshops and read every single one of her books. I listened to every single one of her workshops that she has online. And then the following year was when I was like, I think this alcohol thing's like not really helping me go anywhere. And that was the first year where I was like, okay, I'm just going to cut this out and see if my life gets better. Because I had, because of the burnout I was in, actually as a CrossFit coach, I was actually bartending at a brewery, all while still like waking up at the same time, but still kind of clinging to these things that were not helping me. I took a job with someone who had a very kind of an energy sucker kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Those kind of people. And I got very
Yeah.
sick working with her. And I developed Hashimoto's with thyroid, which is autoimmune disease. And I had to quit coaching CrossFit. My yoga practice, my body was very, very sick. But it came from adrenal fatigue and just like complete burnout, because I realized I was burning the wick at both ends. And that led me to diving down a whole nutrition thing and a whole, non-toxic living thing. And I went down, kind of dove into the bulletproof world and listened to every single one of those podcasts, read every single book on nutrition I possibly could, because the way you heal Hashimoto's thyroid is through diet and lifestyle. So I cut out alcohol that year and realized, I think I might have actually had like a problem with that, because I was having I had to eat so much ice cream and sugar because just in the first 30 days, I didn't realize I was living in the Florida Keys also, where it's very much part of that lifestyle. And if I wasn't in the Keys, I was in the Bahamas, which is just like everybody's having a beer, a glass of wine at sunset, or a margarita. And it was just, it literally was going like over my head that I was poisoning myself that regularly. I wasn't thinking about it like that. And then in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that was a really like large hindrance in my life. And I just didn't have the capacity to see it, because when you're in something, it's a little harder to, to see the full effect on your life. So then that year I pulled it out and was like, wow, I feel completely different. And that first year without alcohol was really eye-opening. And I was continuing to go to trainings and this and that. And then I did drink again. I did stop cold turkey that year. And then I was like, well, now I've like completely healed my relationship to it, so I'll try to drink again. But my body never, once I like cleansed from it, my body never readjusted to it. Because anytime,
so it didn't want it?
Yeah, which makes sense because it's poison. But I would have, I would drink a little wine, and if I got over like 8 ounces, I'd have like a stuffy nose, and I'd have to be blowing my nose. I'd start sneezing. I'd have puffy eyes. I'd get a headache. I'm like, man, that's like the very small amount, which then made it really not worth it. Because the only times I would, like, a friend would get married, and like, oh, I'll have like a little champagne. And then I'm like, now I can't breathe because my nose is stuffed because I had this chemical. Like, what? So it became less and less worth it. And I definitely tried. I didn't want to give up that piece of my life because I am very fun, and like I do have all these friends, and like my family kind of exist in the islands of the world, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can still partake in this. And then eventually I was just like, no, I can't. So I'll just start drinking seltzer with lime, or like kombucha and seltzer, and just accept it and really enjoy my mornings, because I really do enjoy my mornings. So I also just wanted to speak to like, I've never gone through like a 12-step program or anything like that. Not if that feels like what would be supportive for you, I know how supportive it really can be. And quitting, cold turkey and never touching it again is also the route for a lot of people. It wasn't for me, but that's just because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I was like, just kind of like figuring out how to get rid of things that make me weak, and not really having a lot of concept of like what I was actually doing. I was just like, I'm going to not do this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a big thing I shouldn't do anymore. So it's the process of moving away from things that make you weak in all varieties looks different for everybody. And I think it is a process.
For sure. Yeah. And like for me, I quit substances in the order they're going to pretty much kill me. That's how like this stubborn guy had to learn. But I can't even imagine, having the, let's say, awareness with myself to be able to listen like you did and actually, chip away at it until you came to the realization like, oh, wow, this doesn't serve me. I mean, that's pretty, that's not every day. You don't see that every day. And I think that just, shows who you are as a person, and now you're just continuing to listen as it unfolds on your path. So I'm curious about what life looks like for you now, because I'm inspired by you in many ways, as far as like when you say I'm a trailblazer. like your ability to go out there and like put these groups together and go to Costa Rica in groups of 30 and 50 people or whatever it may be in yoga. And then like I watched you through our training and it's inspiring. And, so just tell us a little bit about what your life's like now. What are you doing? Who are you serving? What's it look like?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 definitely was an interesting year. I had decided that I was going to not do retreats for this year before this year became what it was, which I'm eternally grateful for. Um, I did my first retreat in 2013, maybe, or 2014, and I started doing more and more of them after I saw how, well, one, just doing them myself, it was really powerful. Just that group experience, that safety, like really stepping out of your regular life to get in touch with who you are on a very deep level. So retreats were a huge thing, and I am going to do them again in 2021. Um, of course, COVID regulations apply
Mm-hmm.
to that statement. And yeah, so I really focused in on those for years, and I loved them. I have always done co-ed retreats. Sometimes they're all ladies, but most of the time it's a solid mixture. I've done a lot by myself. I've also co-taught them, which is a hugely transformative experience either way, because even when you're in the facilitating role, you're learning every single time, and it's really brilliant to watch the human nature change right in front of your eyes when you're in a
Mm.
condensed environment like that. So I am looking forward to doing those again next year. I also taught a couple yoga teacher trainings. Did two of those in Costa Rica over the last couple years, and I will guest teach in other people's trainings moving forward. But my full-time thing for this year was coaching with women specifically in the world of entrepreneurship and spirituality and wellness. Um, my big thing is to just help guide women back to their worth, back to themselves from um, a deep place, so that they feel like they have something to offer. I definitely, I feel that everyone is here like on a specific calling, a specific contract. Their soul has come here to deliver a specific message and to
Sure.
express themselves in a certain way. And
Mm.
I really am passionate about helping people uncover what that is, like their unique gifts and talents, and then bringing them forward in whatever way that looks like, whether that's through motherhood or through entrepreneurship or through, their any possible way. And it's been really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to work with women this year. So that's all I did this year was one-on-one mentorship for 3, 6, 9, or 12 months long. I've actually been doing that for about a year and a half full time. And then I also started like an 8-week course, which it's called the 8-week resource. It's actually a sobriety challenge for the 8 weeks. And then we move through the chakra system. I'm really fascinated with energy anatomy. That's a lot of Caroline Myss's work.
Did you say a
Um,
sobriety challenge?
yeah, I have a,
Also, you're
yeah.
working with women who want to put down substance.
Yep. Yep. It's just
Awesome.
if they want to sign up, it's like, okay, we're going to move through this 8-week course. We're going to dive into energetics of the body. You're going to have little challenges each week, but the heading challenge is we're letting go of alcohol and reconnecting with ourselves in a deeper way. Yeah. So actually, I
Love
just
that.
led that, and I had 30 women from like all over the world. I had people in
Really?
Spain and South Africa. Yeah, it was. I was like, I can't believe these people are wanting to do this with me.
That's
it was really,
awesome,
it was
Leila.
really beautiful. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll probably lead that again next year a couple times, because it's not as expensive, and it's also just like it's a resource is what I called it, because I want people to be able to care for themselves and self-regulate. They have journal and move their bodies and just connect back. Um, yeah, so I'm offering all kinds of things: personal coaching, 8-week courses online. I do teach workshops from time to time. Like I'm doing a workshop series in November with a friend of mine. And I'm also offering something next year with kind of the theme of next year is like collaboration. It's for me, community and collaboration expansion, because I really feel like the visionaries of the new world are being called forth, if that makes any
Mm.
sense to
Oh
anyone.
yeah.
And I'm on a mission to help, specifically women, but anyone really. If you're called to do that, then I want to fan your flame. I want you to know who you are. I want you to share
Yeah.
that confidently. I want you to set up the boundaries that are needed in order to protect your own energy so that you can thrive while you do it. I know that that's a big thing for people, is just not being able to say no, or not knowing when to say yes to the right things, how to take risk, how to protect yourself in a healthy way, and how to collaborate with others so that you can really take your vision and like expand it even further. So yeah, I have a couple things coming up next year. I'm doing like a 9-month mentorship program called Rise with my friend Gretchen, who's an amazing alchemical healer. So we're getting a group of 12 women together to do that. I'm leading a breathwork training. That's another thing that I offer when I'm in person with people. It's a version of holotropic breathwork. So I'll do that in the spring, like a facilitator's training on how to guide breathwork. And I'll do retreats. I'm going to do my retreat again, but the Bahamas is like a very sacred place to me. I kind of grew up going there. And so I'll offer a public retreat in May for anyone who wants to come to the Bahamas and enjoy the sunshine and yoga every day. I'm also a chef, so I cook during those, depending on what other roles I'm playing, because I can't do everything. Sometimes I hire a chef.
I think I'm about to put a wig on and sign up for one of your courses.
Hey, you can definitely come to a retreat. I'm definitely the coaching is more just women, but retreats and things like that are for anyone. And the breathwork training, you'd love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I love it.
Life is like right now. It's constantly evolving. I think like if you ask me in 3 months, like, what am I doing? I'd be like, and I'd add like 5 more things. If anything, I'm trying to like condense, because sometimes I get a little overwhelmed with all the things that I'd like to share and I'd like to participate in. So just like honing in on helping people, know themselves in a deep way so that they can share those gifts with the world, knowing that someone is here specifically to hear it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely amazing, Leila. And that's why like I could feel your energy, when I met you, just the light. Remember we'd have coffee together. We go down and we'd buying all that good bulletproof coffee and just, I really,
cards.
yeah. And the angel cards. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm really excited for the work that you're bringing to the world, and just want to, really say that I appreciate you. And, yeah, it's beautiful to see you fanning many people's flames. And before I let you go, where can we find you? Where can people find you? Instagram, Facebook, website? Where can they go?
Yeah, Instagram is what I use the most. I do have a Facebook, but I really haven't checked that in a while. So my Instagram is just my name, Leila Dylla. My website's the same thing, leiladylla.com. I do have some YouTube stuff up there, some Dharma talks that I've led, things like that. But my website pretty much has everything. And then if you are a woman and you're interested in joining a community, I'm actually launching a Patreon page, a community next month in November, where I'll host, weekly meditations that you have access to, and a monthly in-depth workshop around spirituality and wellness. And that's my attempt to expand bigger, to have, a whole network of women that are also doing the work. So I'd love to have anyone for that. And yeah, my Instagram, website, if I can do anything truly to serve or to answer a question or to support you in any way, Mike, or anyone listening, know that I'm here. I'd love to be utilized in a way that's helpful for you.
For sure. And I appreciate that. And I'll also put all the links to your webpage, Instagram in the show notes as well, so people can find that. But
thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Leila. And we'll connect soon.
Yep. You're doing great work in the world, Mike. I'm super happy to know you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I want to thank you for listening to today's show. Leila is a gem of a human being, and I hope you took something away from her that can be useful and support you in some area of your life. I know I did. Before you leave and go back to work or on with your day, whatever you may be doing today, I ask you for a quick favor. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful in any way, can you please take a moment to leave a comment and or subscribe to the show? This would be super important to me and support other listeners to check out the show. Also, be sure to check out the next episode of the Healing Beyond Recovery podcast with holistic psychiatrist Dr. Jody Skillicorn. Dr. Jody is a board-certified psychiatrist and author of the book Healing Depression Without Medications, a psychiatric's guide to balancing mind, body, and soul. We're going to be talking about topics like how to come off psychiatric drugs safely and effectively, lifestyle changes you can make to support your mental health, and some of the best supplements to help with anxiety and depression. Also, we're going to be talking about some of the questions your doctor may not be asking you that are game changers when it comes to getting well. So I hope you check out the next episode as well. And once again, thank you for listening to the Healing Beyond Recovery podcast. And remember, you can heal no matter what your story may be.